Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Let's start our video with a story in which a neighbor got his portion of karma. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. My spiteful neighbor. Recently, my neighbor was trying to get revenge for my dad accidentally blocking her driveway a bit. He couldn't park in front of mine as the ambulance was parked there. My daughter had just had a seizure. She's now been blocking our driveway at every opportunity. My partner won't park on our drive anymore as he needs his car to get to work. I didn't want to tow the car as if there was the tiniest scratch he could claim compensation off us. I also didn't want to ring the police, even if it was the non-emergency number, as I know how busy they are right now. I spoke to a friend who knows about parking laws, as I wanted to avoid calling the police if possible. I found out you can contact the council, and my friend also told me to mention I was unsure if she got permission to create a dropped curb in front of her garden. I've been taking pictures of her doing it. I've also filmed her ignoring us as we knock on the door. You can see her peeking through the curtains to see who it is. I sent in all the evidence, and today they visited. The neighbor had parked in front of the drive when they visited. They decided to give my neighbor an immediate fine, as they can see she's prolific at it from my evidence. Also, they checked out the dropped curb into her driveway. I'm not going to lie, I did tell my daughter to ride her bike so I could watch her and listen in on what was being said. Apparently, the neighbor applied for a dropped curb. However, it was refused as she has had a porch built and it means the garden is too small. You can only be approved if your garden is over a certain size to make sure that you can park your car in the garden without overhang onto the footpath. My neighbor just had built the dropped curb herself. The person told my neighbor that the council will decide what'll happen. Most likely, she'll have to pay for the curb to be reinstated and maybe fined on top of that. And our second story. Relative isn't satisfied with what she gets for Christmas, so she steals, lies, and almost ruins Christmas. So this happened at Christmas. And to clarify, I and my family are Muslims, so we don't do Christmas. So my aunts, uncles, and cousins, just the whole family, decided to come spend Christmas with us this year, but since we're Muslims and had no idea they were coming, we had no decorations nor gifts, much to the children's dismay. I, as someone who experienced not being able to celebrate Eid because I'm at a relative's house, Muslim version of Christmas and Halloween, felt horrible for them, so I suggested a little idea to the parents. While the children are away, we go shopping for decorations and Christmas presents, and to make it easier for the parents, I'll buy small presents to make it look like there's plenty. Example, the kid asks for a Barbie house, the parents will get that for them, and I'll get them a few Barbies or a Barbie car. Or if they ask for the phone, I'll get them cute phone accessories to go with it. We agree on that, and we part ways to get what we should. So once home, it's already late and dark. So I suggest I and 3 other parents sneak the gifts through the back door, take them to my bedroom so I can lock myself in and wrap them, then hide them. Everyone agrees and hands the presents carefully, except for a certain a-hole. She throws the gifts at me, then throws a tantrum about how I almost dropped them. She was relatively far, and I was holding a box twice my size, so there's no way I should have been able to catch them in the first place. She's so loud, some of the kids, at least 16, yeah, there are a crap ton of kids, come rushing to see what the fuss is about. Thank God the adults pushed them back in. It would have ruined their Christmas if they knew Santa wasn't real. The magic element is very important. It'd seem like a miracle to that Santa delivers outside of Europe. I finally get to my room after begging for forgiveness for something I didn't even do. I lock myself in and start wrapping. Again, these are presents for a crap ton of kids, and I've got presents for the parents. People with big families can relate. And it took me hours to wrap. For the parents, I've got some accessories or jewelry I saw them passionately eyeing, or they told me about previously. No one asked for anything from me. I did it on my own. A while after I finish, I hear an aggressive knock on my door, and as soon as I open, EB, stands for Entitled B, chimes in and tells me she's sleeping in my room. I reluctantly accept to avoid further arguments and leave. Note that I left the presents and wrapping tools in my room under my bed. Around 5 in the morning, I wake up and sneak into my room to put the presents under the tree I set up without anyone knowing, as I make my way to the living room with the gifts, I realize now, and under a better light, some of the gifts' wrapping paper has been changed, and so did the name tags. At first I dismiss it, due to being tired. Then I decide to check, and lo and behold, the bee changed the tags, so the best gifts she paid nothing for were hers, and her kids feeling pretty PO'd. I wake everyone up and tell them what happened, so we take the presents, kids, except hers, and everything to a fancy hotel. My treat, because F you, EB. Around 8 in the morning, she called asking our whereabouts and that she didn't find any gifts. A lie, I left hers unwrapped next to her and told us to bring her all the gifts so she can take hers and leave as she has no desire to open them with us home. That was her nasty plan, apparently, to run away with the presents. We inform her of everything, and I tell her to leave my house immediately or I'll be calling the cops. And our next story. Break my cousin's heart and steal from me? Cool. Let's break and steal your happy life. So my cousin had been dating this utter D-bag for a good long while. Nobody approved of him because he pretty much only came around when he needed something or wanted sex. We'll call him John. Now John and my cousin would fight constantly, break up, and continuously get back together. I never said anything to the guy because, whatever. She's grown and can make her own choices. I just gave her my advice when she asked for it. So a couple months pass after their breakup, and she and I are living together to help with rent, and because we aren't ready to be on our own yet, yes, she's still with him at this time, well, they go out to eat and leave me home by myself, which I'm totally fine with. I just clean up the house and play Catherine on my PS3 while I wait. Well, it gets late and they aren't back yet, and finally she calls me in tears because apparently this D-bag has asked her to be his side chick because he's married. Naturally, she's heartbroken and looking for me to comfort her, and I tell her to come on home and we'll spend the rest of the night doing whatever she wants to cheer her up. This worked for a bit. Then he came back and asked her to forgive him, which unfortunately she did. So they're dating again, but they're fighting less. The topic of the whole side chick thing drops, and because it's not my relationship to get involved in, I keep my nose out of it. At this point, he comes to visit or spend the night more often, and she's happy, but I'm noticing every time he visits, more and more of my things go missing. Sometimes my teas, sometimes books, once my entire gaming console. I was livid by this because the only one who had access to the house other than us was him. So I'm helping to clean out the cars in the yard when what do I find in his trunk? My console. It's scratched up a bit, but thankfully still works. And finally, I've decided enough is enough. But I can't do anything just yet because I need proof. Well, my cousin comes to me again and asks for my advice. Apparently, she's seen him texting and lying to his wife about where he is and texting this other girl too. Those two don't know about each other, apparently, nor do they know about my cousin. So she decides she's done with him and asks me what she should do. We make a plan that she'll bring me his phone and I'll take screenshots of his messages with these women and send the screenshots to my cousin's phone. After that, we'll send the screenshots to the two women and sit back and watch the show. He's a pretty hard sleeper, so it wasn't hard to get his phone and carry things out. The hardest part was waiting for everything and actually having to talk to these women while he was at our place and fill them in. The wife was not happy. The other girl just kind of scoffed and hung up. Apparently, the wife planned to have all his stuff packed and waiting for him when he got back, so he got a nice surprise when he went back to her the next day. We know she did because he came back and asked to stay with us for a while he looked for a place for him and her. My cousin refused and broke up with him. You should have asked his wife to check for your missing items as she was packing his crap. And our last story. My lab supervisor and I argued over the test setup for a $90,000 custom mechanically timed relay. He won the initial argument, much to his regret. I worked in a lab that conducted destructive and non-destructive testing for Class 1E nuclear safety components. Since all manufacturers and all nuclear power plants are blacklisted, they can't sell to one another. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission does not F around, and one mistake will blacklist you. So that's where small labs like the one I worked at in the 90s popped up. They'd play middleman, buy from the manufacturer, and sell to the plant. Also, because most of these plant designs are ancient, the pieces and parts that go in them are ancient, and you can't just swap something else in because you like the look of it. Sometimes your safety components have to be a carbon copy of the original 1950s design. So that's why we were testing a custom-made, outdated, one-off Westinghouse relay with a very expensive 5-inch diameter watch spring for precision timing. We had to test the current parameters at which it was designed to trip to be sure it would operate precisely as required. They had us mounting it to a large station that generated precise amounts of electrical current across a large range for testing purposes. I had everything set up with the starting voltage and therefore current set to 0 and was going to slowly dial it up to the low end to be sure the relay tripped. My boss argued that the test platform already started at 0 and climbed on its own, so just set it to auto. I argued that if you set it to auto, it'd start out with high voltage, which generates high current, because it's expecting more resistance since that's much more typical, but this relay watch spring has extremely low resistance. This went back and forth for a while until he pulled rank and demanded I set it to auto. I debated just absolutely refusing, and I started to make utterances to that regard. But he was getting pushy, so I did it. We turned it on, there was a flash of blue light, a loud pop, some smoke, and when we looked, there was molten watch spring metal sliding down the inside glass cover of the relay. He muttered, "Don't say a effing word," and stormed out of the lab. Your lab supervisor has somehow gotten the supervisor status, but doesn't know how the equipment works? That sounds like a dangerous and expensive accident waiting to happen. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.